Hi guys, thank you so much for watching today. I just wanted to make a short video that will hopefully shed a little bit of positive light on the whole wedding planning situation this year and beyond. Obviously 2020 has been a really rough year for everybody, including but not limited to wedding planning. A lot of us have been going through struggles, some really serious stuff, and so this video is not to minimize anything really horrible that people are going through in 2020, but just to hopefully bring out some of the positives if we choose to see them in terms of wedding planning this year. So nothing to take too seriously, but hopefully it'll help some people out. I'm going to give you 7 ways in which 2020 has actually changed wedding planning for the better, in my opinion, based on my own wedding planning this year and also talking to some of my friends who are having weddings this year. So these are some of the things that hopefully you can use in your own wedding planning, not just now, but in the future as well. The biggest thing from all this being that things don't have to be the way that they've always been, that our wedding expectations are kind of insane, really, in the amount of money that we spend, in that this whole idea of a perfect wedding that we kind of force upon people, not just the wedding industry, but you know, in pop culture and movies, and just the way that we talk about weddings and all that. And it doesn't have to be that way, and I think 2020 has kind of exposed this for a lot of people who were thinking this way. My name is Brittany. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more wedding stuff just like this, and let's jump right into these 7 ways that 2020 has improved wedding planning for the better. So the first reason why wedding planning might be changed for the better is because our choices are now limited. Let me explain why this is a good thing. Before all this craziness, you might have felt like you had a million choices that you could have made in terms of like decor and food and guests, and you're kind of bombarded with all of these different kinds of weddings you can have, etc. But now you're sort of limited to like an elopement, a backyard wedding, postponing the big wedding to next year or 2 years from now, whatever it may be. Like your choices are kind of limited in terms of how you can get married, at least in the near future. And there's this idea called the paradox of choice. There's actually a book about this by a psychologist called Barry Schwartz, and he says that in our modern lives we have so many choices that we can make, right? We live in an era of abundance. We have so many choices in terms of like the jobs we can choose, the partners we can choose, etc., etc., etc. And when you apply this to wedding planning, it becomes super overwhelming, all the different choices we can make. So because our choices are limited now, this reduces stress. Maybe this seems a little bit counterintuitive, but it does make sense when you really think about it. If you're only offered like you can do this or this, you're not going to spend as much time stressing out over the choices that you have because there aren't so many choices you can make. But if you have 100 choices, you're afraid of making the wrong one. It's all your fault if you get the choice wrong, and so there's a lot more anxiety that goes along with that. So in this way, just being able to say, oh, we have to do a backyard wedding, there's no other choice, is kind of nice. The second way weddings have improved this year is that they've gotten cheaper, probably for most people. So I know that a lot of people have lost out on deposits and crazy stuff like that, especially earlier on when we didn't know what the heck was happening with this thing going on in the world. But for a lot of people, they were able to scale down to an elopement or a backyard wedding, whatever it may be, and it's costing them a lot less money. I know that's what's happening to a friend of mine who's getting married in a couple of weeks. She's scaled down from a big, I think like 150 person wedding to a backyard wedding with just her immediate family, and now she's super excited about that. This whole situation is an opportunity to save yourselves a lot of money, and for a lot of people who are planning on having that big wedding still just sometime in the future, they now have more time to save money, so it's a plus for them as well. A lot of people are just like at the end of their ropes as far as spending money and worrying about wedding planning, so a simple elopement or going down to the courthouse or having a backyard wedding or getting married on the beach sounds really, really nice right now, and just being able to save all of that money and move on with your lives is looking more and more attractive for a lot of couples. Another way that wedding planning has been improved, in my opinion, is that we can all now concentrate on the things that really matter. So I was chatting with my friend who's planning this backyard wedding, and she was saying, oh man, it's so refreshing not to spend so much time worrying about centerpieces now because we're getting married in the backyard. We don't need centerpieces. I don't have to worry about table settings and signs and just like all the little kind of pieces that you think will be fun, and for some people they are really fun, but for a lot of people it's just like an extra stress. And now she doesn't have to worry about that. She can concentrate on spending time with her friends and family and just enjoying the day idea. Imagine too just how much more relaxed all of these couples are on the day of their wedding. And after all, guys, what are weddings about other than to get your friends and family together and to have beautiful, special moments? In my humble opinion, weddings should not be at all about stressing out about the cake topper or the place settings or any of that stuff. If you're spending 1 minute crying or stressing out over details like this, then it's not worth it, in my opinion anyway. So I think that smaller weddings or elopements or whatever it may be have kind of forced us to concentrate on the things that really matter, which are these human connections that you're making at your event. And this next way that weddings have improved is kind of related to that, which is that you get to spend more quality time with each of your guests. When you got like a 200-person wedding, if you just do the math, like a 4 or 5 hour reception, you're you're like physically able to spend 3 to 5 minutes with each of your guests who have maybe like flown in from another state or country or province or whatever it is, and you spend this tiny window of time chatting with those people. So if you're having a small wedding, thanks to 2020 or whatever, you don't have to worry about this. You can spend so much quality time with each of your under 25 guests or whatever it might be, and isn't that lovely? Like, isn't it awesome that you get to spend time with these people? It's also true that all of your guests will feel really special because they know that they made that final cut into the inner circle being invited to your backyard wedding. Not to mention, this is a great excuse to cut those people from your wedding that you didn't really want to invite in the first place. The next reason weddings are better this year is so simple, but having a wedding at a private residence, if that's available to you, if you're having a wedding in your backyard or a friend's backyard or like in a house, if you're having a wedding in a private residence, the party never has to stop. So, you know, like you've been to weddings where it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, everyone's still having a lot of fun drinking on the dance floor, but you kind of get kicked out and you have to move the party to an after party, things disperse, you lose a lot of people. But that doesn't have to happen if you're getting married at a private residence. You guys can party all night long, as long as, like, I guess you're in a secluded place. If you're in a neighborhood, it's gonna have to be a quieter party after a certain point. But I really like this, that you're in control and you don't have like a staff of people, you know, shooing you out the door at a certain time. The next way weddings are better is because expectations are lower. This sounds kind of sad, but actually it's awesome. Because people are coming to your backyard, smaller, whatever it may be, elopement wedding, courthouse wedding, their expectations are gonna be lower than if you invited them to some big extravagant 200+ guest wedding. And because of that, you kind of like come in there and give them an awesome wedding and surprise them because they just weren't expecting it. And the reason it will be awesome is because it's intimate, because it's a smaller group, and that automatically makes people feel special and opens them up to sharing more. If any of you guys have been to a really amazing, intimate rehearsal dinner the night before a wedding, you'll know what I'm talking about, where the rehearsal dinner felt so special and sweet and intimate, much more so than the next day at the wedding, just because of that small group feeling. So yeah, expectations will be low, which means that the wedding will actually be much more fun because people were not expecting it. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about today, guys, the reason why weddings have changed for the better this year is that you can do a lot more intimate activities with your guests. When you've got a huge guest count, there are a lot of things that you just like can't manage because there's too many people. So for example, you could ask all of your guests to dress in the same color and you could have really cool photos that way, like everybody wear white or everybody wear shades of blue or whatever it may be. That would be really hard for a 200+ person wedding. You can do things like trivia, pecha kucha, look that up if you're not sure what I'm talking about, it's really cool. You can do all kinds of just like intimate fun, scavenger hunt, whatever, like team building or bonding games, the wedding or the night before the wedding, and it'll make you feel happy that you did a small wedding instead of a big one, trust me. All right, everybody, I hope this gave you some hope that a small wedding or an elopement or a courthouse wedding or whatever it might be can save you money and be more intimate and more awesome than a big wedding, and that you shouldn't be sad about having to postpone your wedding or making it a lot smaller than you wanted it originally. Good luck, everybody. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel.